Fine. Okay. Hi guys, I'm Bryony Bradbury. I'm a 48-year-old person who has been diagnosed with CADASIL for the last 10 years. So got my diagnosis at 39. I'm 49 this year. So for 10 years, I have known that I have CADASIL. My mother has it as well, so that's where it came from. I was aware that she had it for 10 years before I decided to get tested and found out that I had it too. Those 10 years were kind of interesting in that I absolutely did not want to know to start with once I understood that my mum had it. For me, knowing wasn't something I wanted at that stage of my life. And so it took some time for me to get to the point where I did decide that that's what I wanted to do. So and I am sorry, I was supposed to be there in person today, and I'm sorry I've not made it. As I mentioned, my mum currently has cancer and is undergoing chemo and isn't really well enough for me to be out of town just now. So sorry I'm on Zoom. I would have loved to have been there today, but this is what we've got, I'm afraid. So what I'm going to talk through today in terms of the journey that I've had with CADASIL, the early days, about the denial, about the fact that it was a possibility to have it, wanting kind of the stages I went through to decide that I did really want to know. Coming to terms with the diagnosis, there were a few glitches along the way with my diagnosis and my confirmation of that. The change of mindset. So what kind of happened for me to get to a point where I didn't settle into too much depression and wanted to come out of that, find another purpose for my life outside of what I was doing at that point in time. The other thing I should probably say is I worked in the corporate world for a really long time. It's been 3 years since I did a presentation, so this probably won't be that smooth. It's going to be pretty human, I'm afraid. And any mistakes, or if I'm talking too quickly, I'm really sorry, but I'm so out of my comfort zone doing this these days. So let me take you down another slide. So this is the introduction to my journey. Like I said, my mum had been diagnosed, so I knew about it. I hadn't really researched it too much, didn't know that much about it. Before I knew, I was kind of living my life. I was a customer service manager. It was a very stressful kind of management role with people reporting into me. I was a single mum all of my child's life, and those two things together kind of made for a very stressful journey. I had my first migraine at 25. I actually thought my head was going to come off my body, and I remember lying on the carpet holding onto my head so that it couldn't. Didn't make much sense at the time, but that was my introduction to having migraines. I think this slowly got worse over the period of time. Fairly quickly after that, I had my first thunderclap headache as well, and had thought I'd been shot in the head. It took me to my knees. All I could do was get onto my bed and lie there for hours after that. I really didn't know what had happened. When I get my migraines now, they are very much aura-based with speech difficulties, pain, light issues, sensitivity to lots of different things, smells included, and very disabling, to the point where I actually do have morphine in my fridge to help get rid of them, and have spent quite a lot of time going to hospital, being admitted to hospital and that type of thing. So the photos on the left are kind of after I knew that I had CADASIL. So I put an absolute ton of weight on. I was quite depressed. You can probably tell when you look at those photographs that that's a fake smile. That's not genuine. That was a forced smile. I wasn't happy. I didn't like myself very much. I was very depressed and trying to work out what it meant and how I was going to kind of survive it. Like Glenn said, I just thought maybe I just need to give up now, because what's the point, quite honestly. And then if you look at the slides on the other, the photos on the other side of the slide, this is after I decided that it wasn't going to stop me and I was going to have a life, and it was going to be better than the life I'd already had. And lots of kinds of things fell into place around that, so that I could make some changes to my life, to my career, and start to look at things very differently. So those photos on the other side are all from the last 18 months. And I'll talk more about that as we go through the slide pack, but hopefully you can see the genuine smile and it's gone to my eyes. And this is what I do for fun now. I enter fitness competitions and go try and hurt myself in arenas all around the country doing workouts and more kind of fitness stuff and strength stuff. So there's a bit of a difference in that kind of, in how I spend my time these days. So going back to at the very beginning, I definitely fell into depression. I had known about CADASIL, had seen signs in my mum, which weren't pleasant to see. And you can't help thinking, you know, is this what I have to come for myself? And I got to the place where I didn't care about myself anymore. I ate quite a lot. I put on a lot of weight. It was all doom and gloom. I didn't feel like I had a future. I didn't do very much. I didn't have any hobbies. And there was quite a lot of drink featured in my life around that time. And my migraines were really severe and frequent. And I had lots of other symptoms as well, mainly fatigue and struggling to do a full-time corporate role. In terms of kind of finding my light and purpose within my life, I started boxing. That was a brilliant thing for me to do. It was boxing training, so it wasn't like getting hit in the head in the ring. It was more pad work and fitness at that point. Outside of that, then I found exercise, started training. That cleared my head quite a lot on its own. I became a bit more confident in myself, so I had a bit more belief in myself as well. And I felt ready to kind of get fit, strong. I wanted more for myself. And in my corporate career, I actually took on the role of the wellbeing advisor as well. So I did all the stuff to do with wellbeing and mental health, became a mental health first aider and things like that, because I kind of felt a strong pull to wanting to help other people. So coming to terms with it all, kind of these are the glitches that I experienced in my journey to diagnosis. Obviously, you decide you want the test. You have to wait for the test, and then you have to wait quite a long time, or at least you did 10 years ago. I'm not sure what it's like now for those results. I had an appointment at the hospital to get those results. I went in, he told me I had it. I think I probably knew I had it at that point. So it wasn't quite as shocking as it could have been for some people. The problem with that is there was no offer of any genetic counselling or life insurance. There was no mention of it. I honestly didn't know that I was supposed to do all of these things before I got tested. And so as a result of that, I didn't have any counselling about the result. I didn't have any counselling about whether or not I did want to get tested. I just had already gone through with it. After that hospital appointment where I learned that I did have it, a confirmation letter was actually sent to my mother at her address with my details, telling her, rather than me, that I had CADASIL. And I hadn't wanted to tell her. She had forgotten about it. She hadn't asked about it. And I didn't want to tell her. I thought it was best for her and for her not to know. However, obviously she read the letter and she found out that way. That was really hard for me. I don't think it should have happened like that, let's say. And I have a son. At the time of my diagnosis, he was 18. Huge worry about him. He lives a different lifestyle, and his health is not fantastic. I do think he's got CADASIL. He hasn't been ready to get tested at the moment. He's now 28, and for the first time starting to talk about a test for himself. He's had a few migraines, some other health issues, and it looks like he could possibly have it too. So he is now looking at getting tested, which obviously takes you back to that time when you got your own diagnosis, and you obviously don't want that for your children. So as I said, I had a very stressful corporate life, and 3 years ago, following lots of appointments with my CADASIL consultant, who kept saying to me, it's your job, you need to get away from this level of stress. You'd be much better suited to do a role that isn't so corporate, that isn't so stressful. It took a long time. I heard what you said, but you know, with salaries and things like that, it's not always that easy to change your life in respect to your career. But 3 years ago, I got an opportunity to do that. So I retrained as a personal trainer, and decided that in order to pursue that, in order for that to be successful for me, I knew it would be hard work. So I decided to sell my house. I had a really nice 3-bed house, decided to sell it, moved into an apartment in the countryside, which then freed up some money as a buffer if I was going to go self-employed and make a living as a personal trainer. There were lifestyle changes as well, obviously. I eat healthier these days, probably because I care about myself a little bit more. I definitely drink less alcohol, and late nights don't really exist for me anymore. They're not really conducive for the fatigue that CADASIL can bring. I train daily. I obviously work in the gym now as well, so it's really easy for me to get that training in. It's not something that comes naturally. I do have to think about it, but I like the feeling, and I think it gives me back the energy that CADASIL takes away. I've gone from feeling weak and tired to having more energy and feeling stronger, and from the corporate world, which was all I'd ever known since being a teenage mum, to self-employment and turning my hobby into my new career. I knew the job was part of the issue, so that was the first thing I changed, and moving house to something smaller at the beginning of the cost of living crisis, and my son moving out, and allowing that kind of that position in my life where it was just me, and I didn't have anybody dependent on me in any way. I cut a lot of negative people out of my life. At one point, I cut my mother out of my life because she was very negative about things as well. And so I had to make some really big choices and some really big decisions around it, and they weren't easy. I have surrounded myself with more positivity. I've become slower and more mindful. I definitely put myself first more, which was something that I had to learn to do. And being a personal trainer these days, I put my focus on my clients. I really love helping women get stronger. The strength in their bodies translates to strength in their mental state, and that for me is very, very important. So there was 2 years of negativity. There was 2 years of kind of, I don't want this, I don't know what to do with it, I'm not happy about it, what's the point, no future plans, and just not living. I knew I wasn't living, and I knew I was just existing with CADASIL. But it is possible to change. Sorry, somebody is at my door, I'm going to ignore them. It is possible to change things. Things have to stack up for you to be able to make those changes. You have to believe in yourself. You can make things happen. I worked really hard in the first couple of years at being a personal trainer to allow myself to do that full time for a longer period of time. I can certainly find joy now, and I get that enjoyment from supporting others. And yeah, a diagnosis of CADASIL, that's pretty bloody depressing, quite honestly. But I'm not sat here waiting to have a stroke. I'm not sat here anymore waiting for something devastating to happen to me. I'm really philosophical that it could happen, and I'm aware of that, but I focus on what I can fit in and achieve before that comes to me. I think mindset's really important. I think it's the most important part of this, and trying to find the positivity in your life. That's everything. So I will move on to thanking you for listening to me and being interested in my personal experience. I can't tell you how glad I am I've just got through this and no major issues. So let's do some questions.